So, Dark Souls 3. I am a huge fan of the series. You guys know this. I posted the Salt and Sanctuary video. I can't help myself. I love Dark Souls games. And why do I love them? Because they go against the grain. Every single game that you have coming out these days, okay, I'm exaggerating, but most of the games that are coming out these days are catering to the online crowd. You see all this multiplayer content, multiplayer this, multiplayer that, online, online, online. But when you take a look at their actual story, their actual main storyline, the game itself is maybe 8 hours long. They're all extremely short, very canned. You just can't expect much from them. They're banking, these studios, these manufacturers, they're banking on the fact that you're going to play an 8-hour game and then just be satisfied because you're going to play 200 hours online with your friends and have that be good enough. But you know what? Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty 18, all of these games, they're the same game. There's very little growth, very little difference. There's no real reason for kids these days to go out there and say, you know what, I'm going to get the next game in the series. Why? There's no new story. There's no new anything except what? Maybe a few different options for your online game, a couple different maps, or maybe different specials or something. I mean, Madden. You have Madden 14, Madden 15, Madden 16. All of these games, they're just catering to the online content. And they're becoming more and more freemium. I mean, what do you have for Madden, the Madden Ultimate Team and crap these days where you're dealing with cards for players? You know, this reminds me of a damn game I'm playing on my cell phone where they're just trying to eat a couple extra dollars out of me. But no, before I go too deep into that rabbit hole, what I'm going to tell you is Dark Souls as a franchise from software. What we get out of these games is a game that goes back to true RPG elements. It's action RPG, and it's just you pay for the game and you get content. You get hours and hours of enjoyment. You don't need to go online. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. You just have a great solid 40 to 60 hour game that you can play. And you know what? These Dark Souls games have so many different branches that you could take, different endings, different classes, different styles of play, that you could have 200, 300 hours playing this game and playing it in different ways and enjoying yourself every single time. You know what? I'll be a knight. Okay, now I'll be a mage. Now I'll be an archer. Now I'll be dual wielding weapons. Whatever the hell it is I want to do, I can do it. And I can enjoy myself knowing that I paid one time and I got everything. Now, we are going to have some drawbacks this time in Dark Souls 3, like all games. But at its core, it is a game that goes against the current grain, against the way the things are going these days, and brings you back to what made you love games in the first place. A challenge and content that's worthy of the sticker price. Now, I support them through and through, and so I'm going to give it a good score at the end of this, but there's going to be several complaints. You know, and the first complaint I'm going to have is at the very beginning of the game. Right away I start off complaining, okay? I start off complaining. Why? Because Dark Souls 1 is what captured me. It wasn't Demon's Souls. I actually played Demon's Souls after I played Dark Souls. I jumped in on it after Dark Souls came out. But what really captured me was the map for Dark Souls 1. I mean, it was the first time I had ever seen a game use the three-dimensional space so perfectly. I mean, one area melds into the next area, and it's fluid and it's consistent. And then later on in the game, when you get new perspective and you've unlocked new areas, and then you just see how it all comes together, and it's one massive, perfect world where everything is connected. Oh, man. I mean, there was nothing better. I loved it. I could not get enough of it. As soon as I saw that map, and it wasn't even the battle mechanics at the time. I thought it was a little bit too clunky, a little bit too slow, whatever. But because of the map design and the care and the thought that they had put into that game, I was blown away. And I instantly fell in love, and I decided I had to play Demon's Souls, and then I had to play everything that came out in the future. And Dark Souls came out, Dark Souls 2 came out, and I didn't like it. Why? Because they improved upon some things, but what did they do? They destroyed the map design. Why? I don't know. I don't know, but I think I had such high expectations for that because the map was so amazing in the first game. I just expected it in the second game. And have the hubs from the central area just go out in one linear fashion and then teleport back. It didn't grab me. I still liked to play the game. Why? Because it was a Dark Souls game. It had cool bosses. It had different types of enemies. And it was rehashing an experience that I had missed. And so, yeah, I loved Dark Souls 2 despite the things I hated about it. And I think that's what I'm getting to here. In Dark Souls 3, it seems like they're pulling it back, trying to get back to Dark Souls 1, right? Trying to get back to that amazing map. And it seemed like they had different areas that were designed well, you know. You have a cathedral and two different doors and you get far along enough in the cathedral to unlock one door so that you have a shortcut back to your original area. I mean, all over the map. You got Farron Keep, this place, that place, another place. Wherever you go in Dark Souls 3, you're going to have a beautiful area that's going to have awesome shortcuts. That was one of my favorite things about it is the shortcuts. You die and you die and you die and then you get a shortcut and then you realize, you know, it's not that far to get back to where I am now. And so then you feel a little bit more confident and you can progress. But although the area design is great in Dark Souls 3, it doesn't feel like it's one connected, cohesive area like it is in Dark Souls 1. You know, there's a few good moments, like when you're finally crossing out over to the Boreal city, and you're leaving out of the side of the mountain, and then you come and you see this new city before you, and you're like, holy crap, you know, this is great because it's connected, and there are a few areas that are connected, but it isn't a complete map the way Dark Souls 1 is, and it just hits you from the very beginning because you wake up and you're going through this little tutorial area where they're telling you, oh, hold this button to attack, hold that button to roll, whatever. You know, you should be pretty familiar with the controls already, or you should be experimenting on your own. But, I mean, read your little messages, get used to it. But the problem is, as soon as you get through this one area and you fight your first boss and you get to Firelink Shrine, you're thinking, hey, I'm on this quest. You know, I get to Firelink Shrine. It's going to tell me where I have to go, what I'm going to have to do, even if it's extremely vague like Dark Souls games usually are. But what happens as soon as you get there? It's a dead end. You either have to farm 20,000 souls for a key and then find out that that's just another dead end because you're just, you know, traveling around the same area, or you're going to have to get stupid and just check that bonfire in the center and realize that you can choose where to go instantly. And I think that's what ruined it for me. At the very beginning, I got a bad taste in my mouth because instead of traveling from Firelink Shrine into the next area, I spent a good solid 45 minutes at the beginning of the game looking for the next area when all I had to do was teleport to the damn thing. And so you right away, you don't feel the cohesive connectedness. And I know what you're probably thinking, hey, Dark Souls 1 does the same thing. You have your tutorial area, you have the very beginning boss, and you run from him, and then the crow carries you to Firelink Shrine. Well, I prefer that. Why do I prefer that? Because the crow carried you there. I mean, you didn't have to decide on your own to look into the bonfire and try to teleport somewhere. The game built into itself the function of traveling to the next area. and you can go back to that area in the future if you want to battle that boss, and so it remains part of the story. I mean, in Dark Souls 3, yeah, you can end up working your way back to the original area you were at, where the graves were, but it's very strange. It's like you travel forward or backward in time or something in the process of doing this. I didn't like it. I didn't like it because guess what? I can teleport to the same location in the game and have it be two different time periods, and you can walk to and from it also. It's just, I don't know. It didn't hit me as being one beautiful masterpiece of a map like Dark Souls 1 was. You know, there's a lot of reviews out here on this game, and they're all going to talk about how great the combat is, how great the weapons are, the new skills, the new that. But I feel like we're actually pulling away from the combat of what Dark Souls had been. I think with the release of Bloodborne and the idea of faster paced environments, you're moving away from the defending, the counterattacks, the planning ahead, and it's getting into very quick reactions. Roll through the boss, roll through this, as fast as you can. And I don't know if I like the direction it's headed. I mean, I suppose we'll find out. I mean, this is the last Dark Souls game from what I hear, from what everyone seems to say and think. But, is Bloodborne carrying the torch? And if so, I can understand Bloodborne being a fast-paced game, but I didn't want Dark Souls to become a fast-paced game. I liked the idea of slowly, methodically exploring and finding out the move set to the enemies and just taking my time and then finding a moment to strike. But it seemed like in this game you didn't have as much endurance. Like anytime you got hit by an attack, it would take away so much more stamina. Like they were really, really trying to get you to ditch the shield in advance. Like, do away with it. You don't need the shield. Just roll and attack, and I didn't like that I couldn't play the game the way I had wanted to play the game. And you look at the forums and you'll see people saying, oh, well, I halberded Dark Souls. I halberded Dark Souls 2. And by golly, I'm going to halberd Dark Souls 3 if my life depends on it. And there's just these people, and I'm one of them. I'm no better than anybody else. I was dead set on playing this game the same way I had always played the game. I wanted to carry a one-handed sword, and I wanted to carry a shield. Sometimes I would use the Ultra Great Shield or Ultra Great Sword just because I loved the idea of swinging down and slamming up and swinging down and having that extra range when I needed it. But when all was said and done, for me it was a game where I was holding up my shield, circling the enemy, blocking a couple strikes, and then getting one in, backing up, rolling away, trying to let my stamina recover, and then do it again. And I just couldn't play this game that way. I felt like the enemies were more swarming you, sort of like they were in Bloodborne. They were faster paced. The combat just took away too much of your stamina. And in the end, I ended up, when you're playing against the Nameless King, I dare you to comment on this video and tell me that you fought against the Nameless King and you held up your shield one time. All right. Maybe one time you did. But I bet you didn't win that battle because what did you have to do? You had to roll through his attacks, hit him once or twice, run away. The only time you held up your shield was maybe at the very beginning when he hit his little shockwaves at you. Okay, maybe you shielded that. But then what'd you do? You put your shield away, did a little extra damage, whether it was on the dragon or whether it was on him, and you just couldn't play the battle the way you had played most other battles, and maybe it's just preparing us for the next game that they're going to come out with, or sending us down this path for a reason. I don't know, but I just didn't get to play the game the way I wanted to, and part of it has to do with me aging. I'm 31 years old. I don't have the time to play the games I used to have. I play it sometimes on the weekends. I play it sometimes for an hour here on the on the weeknight after work, but it really isn't, the hours upon hours that I used to be able to put into a game. Just other life things coming up, and you just can't devote the time you want to. And when I come across a Dark Souls game, for me, I'm of the mindset where this isn't a game that I want to turn it on and play it for 30 minutes. Because I don't feel like I can make any progress. I don't feel like I can enjoy it. I don't feel like I can get immersed into the environment and into the story in 30 minutes. I feel like I'm going to get my bearings, remember a couple of the move sets from the enemies that I'm facing, and then by the time I finally am getting into a groove of things, it's time to shut the game off. So it's not a game that you can play for a short period of time. And for that reason, it took me a lot longer to get through this game than I had anticipated. Alright, so I had to cut myself off there. I was just going too deep into crap, and I needed to take a couple days to sit back and really think about this game before I went forward with the rest of the review. That's why I got a little bit more facial hair, and that's why my hair looks a little different. I really wanted to just take my time and not come to a rushed judgment on this game. I felt like I was really ragging on it pretty hard, and there is no real need to. I mean, I meant every word that I said. That's true. But I think I just took too much of my time in comparing it to previous games in the series, and didn't really allow it to stand on its own as a game. I loved the game. I enjoyed every second. I truly appreciate everything that From Software does for us. They really put their heart into the game. And, as much as I like to complain all the time, it's just part of my personality. I'm a huge complainer. In my heart of hearts, I really do appreciate the game that they came out with for us. The heart that they put into it. And I feel like they did a good job. I mean, if I'm going to give this a final score, I'm going to do just like everybody else did, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, I can't give it a 10 just because of the previous games that came out. And I feel like for a third game in the series, they really had enough experience to come out with a perfect version of it. And they didn't come out with a perfect version of it. They came out with a really darn good game. But it wasn't the perfect version that the game could have been. It is a good game, though. It's not trying to get you to spend money on microtransactions. And it's not trying to be something that it isn't. It's just a good, solid game that wants to give you a challenge. And they did a great job. That's my review of Dark Souls. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell me your thoughts on this game, because I'm interested in hearing some regular guy perspectives on this, because the more we get these reviews from GameSpot or formal media outlets, the more of a hive mind we become, and I want to know what regular people think of this game. I don't want to know what professionals think of this game. They spend their entire careers being critics here, and sometimes they could even be paid off to say good things. Who knows? I'm not paid off. I'm just a regular guy, just like you guys are, and I want to know what we all think about this game, and I want to know where I'm wrong too. I'll try to take criticism a little better. I know my lady Kristen, she always tells me men can't take criticism too well. And it's pretty true, but I want to get better at that. So help me. Have a good one, guys. Peace out!